Hello everyone, how are you doing today? As you can see, the charts are ready to go, and this is going to be a full breakdown of the price action that happened on Monday, the 11th of March 2024 in CL. I will not use any historical data, no DR model data, or any other advanced DR tools. This is going to be pure DR basics that I've taught you already in previous live sessions for free on this channel, but as always, I will include some small little gems, so pay attention. We start with the ADR session, which is below the previous day's RDR session. Now we get our confirmation to the downside with a slightly lower probability because the DR box is green. But what else do you notice here? Look at the open magnetic volume imbalance right above us, lining up with the opening price and the lows of the DR session. That's a good reason to at least expect a retracement into this area. So price returns into it and closes below it and the opening price of the ADR session. That's a valid setup if price gives us around 3R or more. Our stop would go above the volume imbalance, the IDR low, and the opening price, of course. Since we haven't reached the low-hanging fruit of 0.5 SD yet, this would be our first target. And of course the 1 SD, which aligns with a new low as well. Let's aim for the 1 SD level to get at least 3R if possible here. Target has been reached to the tick, and that's our fill. Price drops way lower and there is nothing to trade anymore for this DR session, because we already reached more than 3 standard deviation. At this point, if you didn't catch a trade and don't have any data, just skip the session. Now we're coming to the ODR session and the box has just formed. What catches your attention immediately? The ODR is being supported by an open magnetic gap imbalance. I've shown you the importance of gap imbalances in our last video, but if you want me to cover them in detail, just let me know it by liking this video. The ODR box also extends the ADR box in its range, while the ODR mid stays within the ADR box. That's an early sign of a possible range expansion model or trumpet price action behavior. Price continues higher and confirms longs with a close above the DR high and a green DR box as well. What else do we have? There are volume imbalances below the current rejection from the IDR high. Again, this is very important because these previous volume imbalances can also assist you with your stop loss placement sometimes. Remember, they are very magnetic and important for the algo. So our stop goes below the volume imbalances and the IDR high, and as a target we have the next SD level of 1, and something very nice to see, an open volume imbalance lining up with the 1.5 SD. Entering here, as explained, would give us 3.7R, which makes the trade valid, and we're getting stopped out, -1R. Price dropped very aggressive, almost back to the opposite side of the DR. What is catching your eyes? If you think about the retirement setup, you're absolutely correct. This trade is a very high probability one, as we have a green DR box, a long confirmation and no new high ever since the confirmation has happened. The stop goes 2 to 3 ticks below the DR and our target will be the 1 SD level, since it gives us more than 3R. And there you go, target reached. Just look at that beautiful to the tick extension to the 1.5 SD and the open magnetic volume imbalance. Isn't that beauty in price action? At this point, the session should be done for you. 2 bullets, nothing more. The ODR session ends and we get a false session confirmation. Let's zoom out a little bit. What can you see here? If you use the price range tool on TradingView and highlight both of the IDR ranges, you can clearly see that the ODR box extended the range of the ADR box, like I was already mentioning. The price range tool gives you a detailed value to measure, because sometimes the DR ranges are almost equal and not easy to eyeball. Back to the chart, what else is important? The ADR highs have been taken out, while the ADR session lows haven't. Let's continue with the RDR. As you can see, we have just taken out the ADR session lows while forming the RDR box. 10:30 AM is over and the RDR session box has formed. Now the big question. Take a moment and look at this chart. What would you expect from price? Pay attention to details. First of all, every DR session box expands the previous one, which we call a range expansion model. Next, we have a big trumpet forming. Keep in mind, we haven't got any confirmation to the down or upside yet, and we're just observing price. A volume imbalance is currently supporting price, but there is one more very important detail in the chart. Can you spot it? It's this small open magnetic volume imbalance. With its magnetic function for price, we can expect a return into it, since we don't have any confirmation to either side yet. If price returns into it before giving us a short confirmation, what would that mean? That we will have a high probability for a long confirmation, since the open WIB is above the DR high. Remember, we don't blindly take any trade here, we always wait for confirmations to support a trade idea to increase our probabilities. So now, we got our long confirmation and the return into the WIB to the tick. If price retraces anywhere back into the DR range, where would be our potential target for a long trade? Minimum target would be the low-hanging fruit of 0.5 SD and ideally the ODR highs. With this, both sides of the market would be played, which is typical for a trumpet price action behavior. So price retraced back into the DR and presents you this. Our target is obvious, but where would you place your stop loss for your first bullet of the DR session? Access to historical data would be super helpful here to see what has happened in the past, but since we are trading the DR Basics, we should definitely cover at least the IDR mid with our stop and see if we can get at least 3R out of this trade. The trade would look anywhere like this, and that's totally worth taking your first bullet here. Price pushes higher and we can already see two important things. The ODR and ADR session mid-levels were taken, which increases the probability for further upside. What else do we have? The ODR lows are supporting price as well, to the tick. And here we go. Finally, we hit our target. Perfect range expansion model came into play. I will drop a video link in the description of another video where almost exactly the same price action has happened in ES, which I covered in an earlier video. Must be completely random, huh? I really hope you enjoyed this session and learned something out of it. The DR Basics provide a glimpse into what I know and teach. If you are serious about learning how to trade like a pro, feel free to check out m7dr.com for more information. Let's conquer the markets together.